All right, so yesterday we pretty much just focused on this box here, right? Pretty much. That's what we focused on yesterday. So let's go to page 5 where it says extra notes and go over some of those things there. It says state and explain how you can lower your monthly payments. Yeah, I will do the attendance in a bit. So state and explain how you could lower your monthly payments. Let me just try to, I guess this is being presented. I used to be able to see you all in a grid, and right now I can't make that work. Maybe if I remove this. Oh no, sorry, there we go. I'll just leave it like that. So state and explain how you can lower your monthly payments. Right? How could one lower monthly payments? And this is provided you haven't signed yet. Okay, so well, let's say we're assuming you haven't signed the contract just yet. So if you look at the formula to figure out the payment, right, we would take the price of the house, subtract the down payment, and multiply it by a table rate, right? And if you think of it, where do we get that table rate from? We match the percentage. Yeah, I'll be right there. We match the percentage and the amortization, right? So in years. So like if you think of the formula for the payment, there's so many components that factor into it. And I like to think of all these things, all the components that come into play when calculating the monthly payment. And if you were to adjust those, right, it would change the outcome of your payment. So obviously, if you're looking at a certain price range, looking for a cheaper house is not really what you would want to do in this case, right? Because you kind of know what you want. Like, let's say you want like a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms. You want that attached garage. So you kind of are looking in a certain area and you kind of know what you're looking for price-wise. When you're ready to do so, you probably know this is my budget, this is what I can afford. So that one you can't really touch, but the down payment you can, right? So sometimes it's just common sense here, but it would, if you were to increase the down payment, you would be in business, right? If you increase your down payment, the amount you need to borrow will go down, okay? Therefore, your payment will also go down. So increasing the down payment or coming up with a larger down payment will usually help you with that, okay? So those are folks that are just joining. We are on page 5 in our booklets, right? And I'm just reviewing a few things before I throw an AC at you, okay? Increase the down payment. That's one way of decreasing your payments, right? That's lower your monthly payments. You want to be able to pay less a month. So you need to save up, come up with a larger down payment before you make that purchase. The other thing, if you think about it, the interest rate, you can shop for a lower interest rate. Right? You can shop for a bit of a lower interest rate. It's not the most effective way because, as I told you, the interest rates pretty much across the board are about the same at any given time. Yes, there are some offers. Some banks sometimes give you, they say, like, if you sign up right now for a 5-year term, we'll give you $3,000 cash back. Like, they actually give you cash in your checking account if you were to sign for a mortgage. So there are some ways to take advantage of offers, but if that's not the case, the interest rates are pretty much all the same. Okay, so but you can go shop around, do it, because sometimes the difference between, let's say, a mortgage, right, 2% versus 1.85%, right, could mean thousands of savings over 5 years, right? Could mean thousands of dollars in savings. Because when you're looking at a mortgage of 300,000, 350,000, and so forth, you could save thousands of dollars by just getting an interest rate that is 0.15% less. So it is worth doing. Okay, I'm not saying it, but it might not be as efficient as coming up with a larger down payment. And the other one, if you think of amortization, if you increase the amortization, i.e., take longer to pay off, right? If you take longer to pay off, and it is actually a thing, there you can go 30 years. You can say, instead of 25 years, I want to pay this off in 30 years. I want to take longer to pay it off. Yes, your payments will go down, but you will pay more interest overall. The total interest you pay for that mortgage will be more. Just be advised, right? Be aware of that. But some people will rather take that hit so that on a month-to-month basis, they're going to be able to make those payments, right? When I bought my first house, is probably about 12 years ago, they had 40-year mortgages, 40, and I don't think they're offering that anymore because it's too long, right? But yeah, that's what it is. So these are 3 things that you can do. If you make little notes, right, just arrow up, right? How can you lower your monthly payment? You increase your down payment, shop for a lower interest rate, or increase the amortization. Those are guaranteed 3 ways that you can do that. Okay, make sure you have that written down. This is on page 5 in your booklets. Okay, number 2, state and explain advantages of owning a home. So the biggest one is you build equity, right? And I will explain. As you pay off your mortgage, comma, the value of the home increases. Okay? The difference of the two is equity. And the banks know this. I'll tell you this, if you sign a mortgage and you sign for 5 years, at the end of the 5 years, actually in the last 6 months before your mortgage is over, the 5-year term is over, your bank is going to allow you to already renew if you want to without penalty. They will then say, hey, you have Mr. or Miss, right? You have $50,000 worth of equity right now in your home. What that means is you've paid off quite a bit, and they also notice that the value of your home has gone up. So they know that if you were to sell at that point, you have 50 grand worth of assets, right? Equity in the house. So they will offer you a car loan. Like they'll say, hey, you want to buy a car? And we'll just have that equity as collateral. And you get a pretty decent interest rate if you do that. So you can use that to your advantage, right? The equity can be used to make purchases, larger purchases. I needed to re-roof my house at the end of the 5 years. So it cost 12 grand to re-roof the house. So I took care of that, just threw it onto the mortgage. It can be thrown together, or they can make a separate loan for you on the side with the same interest rate as your house. That is huge, okay? So equity is huge. That's the biggest one. Um, Payments stay the same. We'll just say that overall payments kind of stay the same when you own a home. Okay, that's the good thing. The other thing is you can renovate slash upgrade at any point. If you are the boss, right? If you want to paint a room, if you want to change, like tear down a wall and open up a space, whatever, you can do that because you own the home. You cannot do that if you're renting. You cannot even paint the walls without the landlord's approval in a lot of cases. So owning gives you that freedom of do that, right? Ability to have a yard, right? Not, I mean, if you buy a condo, obviously you don't have a yard, but if you own a home, right? If you buy a home, a house, so you have to clarify, right? We'll put this a house, you will have the ability to have your yard, right? So you might bring a lot of benefits. This is a big one for a lot of people. You may have pets. Nobody's going to tell you whether or not you're allowed cats or dogs. And there are certain apartments where I used to live in an apartment where you weren't even allowed fish, like fish, a fish tank with fish in there. You weren't allowed to have even that. So some apartments are very strict with that. If you own your home, you can have any pet you want, right? It's your home, right? You're gonna take care of that. So that's kind of, I'm just gonna leave it at that. The biggest one is equity. As you can tell, I've been talking a lot about equity. If you understand that concept, you can use that to your advantage down the road. Okay. Stated explain the disadvantages of owning a home. How about this? Can you type in the chat, what would you think are some disadvantages, some downsides of owning a home? If all of you or a few of you would be willing to type in the chat right now, what are some of the disadvantages that you can think of when it comes to owning a home? Some downsides. I'll wait a couple seconds there. Okay, Joey, paying for repairs. You're right. Richard, repairs. Yeah. Repairs. Yeah. Kayla, you got it. It is definitely one of the biggest downsides. Anything else? Think outside the box. Oh, Gabriel says property tax. Yes. Yeah. There's a bit of a caveat to that, right? Like your landlord builds it into your monthly bill, but yes, you're not on the hook. Like when you get your rent, right? That is all you pay. You don't have to worry about any additional big ticket items. But I would say yes, Gabriel, you got it. Okay. Good. thank you for those of you that typed something in, and some of you might have been like, oh, I'm not so sure if I should type this. Just go ahead and type it, right? So disadvantages, yes. Repairs / maintenance, right? You are responsible for any costs associated with regular upkeep, right? Regular maintenance, so filters, like you got to mow the lawn. You need a lawnmower. B, you need to have fuel for it. You need to have the time for it, right? So that is that. If they're so filter replacement, appliance breakdowns, I will say, absolutely. If you right, a furnace checkup / replacement, right? Like if it breaks, you need to replace a furnace. It's a vital thing, especially in a cold climate like ours, right? Leaky faucets, right? Leaky faucets. There are so many things. As some are small, some are big, but it's a lot of money if you add it all up. Absolutely, right? So I think I'll just leave it at that. I think you understand what that means, right? I try to, on a, maybe not every year, every second year, I get a technician to come out and check my furnace and my air conditioning unit and make sure everything is working right and everything. Sometimes you have to clean the coils inside the system. There's a lot of maintenance you can do yourself, right? But we'll talk about that later. You pay all bills, right? These can fluctuate depending on use, right? So if you pay for hydro, which hydro is like your heating, your gas, and your electricity bill, it will go up as you use more. Right now, you're probably using, at my house, I know for a fact, I have an app where I do my meter readings every month, and it has gone up significantly for the month of November, December, and probably January and February, right? Like you use a lot more to heat your home and so forth. So it's dependent on use, right? If you're using water, every time you flush the toilet, every time you shower, it all goes up, right? And in an apartment, it kind of stays the same, right? Most apartments, water is included, electricity is included, right? So you don't have to worry about using too much or too little because it's just fixed, right? So that is a downside of owning a home. And then another one is emergency repairs, right? New roof, new furnace. I should have done that. Furnace, new hot water tank. I don't know if you ever had that happen to you. I have a feeling that some of you will know what I'm talking about. You come down to the basement and there's water all over the floor, and what do you notice? That your hot water tank is leaking, right? So why does that happen? The water in the tank, right? It sits there all the time, and with the heating and cooling, it's always heating. There's a lot of corrosion that happens at the bottom of the tank, especially, and then slowly it will rust over time. And all of a sudden, there's that point where water is going to start leaking. Sometimes it's just like a slow leak. If you notice any leak, turn off the water. There should be a water valve just above it, feeding it. Turn that off right away, and try to, you can drain it. Most water tanks have a drain at the bottom. But before you do that, I have to warn you, the water in there is very, very hot. Okay, so if you go to your, I don't know if you know where your breakers are and your electrical panel, make sure you go to it and you turn off the power to your water heater as well. So turn off the power, turn off the water, and maybe just wait a little bit till that water cools off a bit. And if you can do that yourself, like I would call a company for sure, come and replace it, or you replace it yourself. Just look it up on YouTube, right? But anyways, that happens, and so just make sure you are aware of that. Anyways, we're done with this page, and make sure you have this written down. And I will, I think I will go, if you let you write that AC now. It's actually a Google form. So done the AC, right? Pages 6 to 8. Right, done AC, question mark. Then work on pages 6 to 8. And just wait for me, okay? Or I will come back shortly. I'm just waiting for the submissions to go up, and then I'll give you further instructions. If you're still working on the AC, keep going. Just make sure you work through this, add to your study sheet. As I said, do everything on loose leaf for now and then transfer it to your study sheet later on. Any questions?